want it to be difficult. I enjoy that it's difficult. What I'm saying is the more difficult it is, the
Good morning. Today is the 17th of April 2024 and I'm going to go through my trading levels in the next few seconds. Just wait for it to get to 2 PM or 9 AM Eastern time. Before we start, let's take a look at the news to see what could move the market today. Got some oil news at 10:30. And that's about it really. Nothing of high importance. So oil, if you're in oil today, just keep an eye on that. As you can probably gather, my voice is a little bit tender today, so I'm going to try and speak up if I can. Levels for today, this is the ES screen, ES chart, and we're looking at the 1 hour time frame. Ideally what we're looking for is to get out of this range we've been in now for the last couple of days. We want to kind of break out of this area, so anywhere below 50, 80 we can, or any in that area we can watch for a bounce. So watch for a bounce, we come down into that area, and we can look for a higher risk rejection up in this area. What I'm looking at the moment is a left shoulder, a head and a right shoulder, so potentially we're looking at an inverse head and shoulders pattern, as we can see there. If we can get above this area, the neckline, then we can look for a break and retest, and we've got a potential target of 51.50, and that is this is the fibs for this level down here. You can see this white line, that's the 50% area. Also we've got a level, an area of potential resistance. We've got previous day pivot from Friday, area confluence as well, where we've got bottoms and tops of candles. All happen to be around the fibs 50% area, so I'm going to be watching this area here for a rejection, and that's 50-50 rejection. If we break down, obviously if we do keep rallying, and then we've got this area here, this area of support or supply, and we can watch that area for rejection. And we've got this trend line coming down, and we've got a potential rejection point as well at 5200, which also happens to be a round psychological number as well. So pivot, trend line, big time. Last time it was in that area, we had this big reaction, so it's a known area for a rejection. So watching 5200 for rejection, 5150 also for rejection. These are my two prime areas to watch, and these will be with the trend as well. We're currently in a hourly downtrend. Looking at daily, in the daily downtrend as well. Kind of broken that key area, the 50 moving average, so we've got to favour bullish trades over bearish trades over bullish trades. That's our key area, is watching for it to break down below. Bounce places, next areas, the psychological number 50,000, so we can watch that area as well for potential bounce. And we've got this red line, which is our weekly trend line, and that is the previous all-time highs area, and also it's the weekly 20 moving average, so we can keep an eye out for bounce in that area. So that's kind of what we can look for. So we've got a little bit of movement down. Also we've got a bit of a gap to fill going over onto SPY. So if we do break down that area, SPY's got this big gap to fill as well, so potentially we could see some downward motion down to about 497.30 with a potential bounce area down here on SPY. So we'll come to SPY in a second. It's back to the hourly. So bounces on we talked about the rejections, now we're going to look at the bounces. We've got this trend line, which back to the weekly again, that is the previous all-time high pivot, so an area to watch, keep an eye on. So this area here, so we can watch this area for a bounce, and that should be similar to the SPY gap fill as well. So That's 50 for a bounce. Flipping over to the SPX chart, we got this 5,000 level as well. So this is kind of all lining up to be in similar areas. So we've got 5,000 psychological number. We've got the gap fill. You see this gap here as well, which we saw in SPY. We got the trend, the weekly trend line in this area as well. And so I'm kind of, and obviously you've got SPX at 5,000, and that's a psychological number. So I'll be watching SPX, SPY, and obviously take my entries on the ES. So just to quickly sum up, I'm watching for a bounce at 50.50. If we can break down, and we can, and I'm either watching for a bounce at 50.80, 50.75 area. If it doesn't bounce and we break through, I'll be looking for a break and retest to fill this gap. So that's my two plays. I'm really watching at this level, a bounce or a breakdown, a break and retest. I'm watching for a bounce at 50.50. May not get there today, but that's maybe one for this week. I'm looking for a potential rejection at yesterday's high, or if we break through, a break and retest long to fill this area in before we get to that fibs area we talked about. And then so that's 51.20 for a break and retest or rejection, or 51.50 for a reject at the fibs area. And if we rally through, again this may not be there today, but we're watching this area as well, 5200 for rejection. So they're the main areas today. I'm just gonna draw them in. 5200, it's a bit wonky, 5150, 5120, 5080 bounce, and 5050 bounce. So these are the kind of the levels I'm watching today. Okay, so SPY, we can briefly go on to that now because we kind of discussed that. Got this gap fill, so I really want to look for a break and retest short on ES to kind of fill this gap. And then we've got a potential bounce area if we get into that area as well at 494 to 495, 496 area. And then same as ES, we can look for this area here, 508 to 509 for a rejection. Area confluence, bottoms of candles, bottoms, bottoms, bottoms. We've got tops and tops of candles. And again, same up here, coming into this weekly, if you remember rightly, we've been talking about this weekly trend line, goes back 25, 24 years. We are currently trading below it, and we can look for a retest of that area. But bear in mind, it's a weekly trend line, which goes back 25 years. So it's not really a line, it's more of a zone. So this could be a bit like this. It could be that wide. So that's kind of the zone we're looking at, something like that. So we're kind of in that area now. But it's good as a guide. And you know, we've been talking about this now for probably since January, February time. It's been on our chart since then anyway. That's it really for SPY. A rejection at 512, a bounce at 496 area, or a gap fill. Next is NQ. Not quite as clear the levels, but we can see this trend line here quite clearly. Kind of watching for a bounce down at 17,600 to 17,700, big area, so you need to watch that area for a bounce. This area here. If we can come down, we can look for a bounce up. A rejection, you clearly see this rejection. We've got lots of touches. Lots and lots of touches of this area. So I quite like, this is my main area on QQQ at NASDAQ. And I'm looking for 18,050 roughly, that area there for rejection. I'm Not done the fibs, but let's do the fibs. Look at that, smack bang on that area. So 18,050 to 18,079 for rejection. So that's kind of the area I like, and that's probably the only area. And obviously we've got this area up here, area of supply at around 18,300 for rejection. So that's it for Nasdaq. Qs is going to be the same. Yellow line is that weekly trend line we just talked about, going back 24 years. So do the fibs on here as well. So we can watch 435, 435, 436 for rejection, which kind of coincides with the bottoms of these pivots. We got a bounce at 423, this area here, this pivot. So we've got this big gap to fill as well. So potentially, like SPY, we can look for a break and retest of yesterday's low. And then that's it. I don't really like the long because we're kind of coming into that area anyway. So that's the only areas on Qs. Let's quick look at SPX. Only really watching one area, 5,000 for a bounce. And that should hopefully coincide with the bounce down here and the bounce on SPY around here as well, and the bounce on ES. But we'll keep an eye on that. So I'll be watching all SPY, SPX and ES for around this area. I've got my alerts in place as well. Gold. Kind of need to get out of this range we've been in for a few days. So we can watch for a break, retest of pre-market high or yesterday's high long. Got this as our target, 244 to 24.50 for a target. Break and retest of 24.10. That's it. You've got to go with a trend. It's still in a big uptrend. We've not broken the trend line, so I can't really see any shorts at the moment. Oil, on the other hand, is trading this channel still. If we can get down into this lower area of the channel, 83.50, we watch for a bounce. Does that coincide with any other levels? Yeah, that level there, let's mark it in. What I'm looking at is tops of these candles. So I'm looking at areas of confluence, tops, bottoms, 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 tops, bottoms, tops, bottoms, and it happens to be on that trend line there as well, so it makes it a bit stronger. We've got this top as well, so we can watch 83.35 for a bounce, and that'll be off the bottom channel trend line. Maybe we watch for a rejection up here as well. Got the point of control. By the time we get there, 85 to 85.50 for a rejection. So let's just draw that in as well. I'm going to put an alert in there. Put an alert in there. Put my alerts in because I don't really want to be watching screens all day. So if the alerts go off, it goes off on my phone as well, so I can come back and take a look and decide if I want to take a trade. The Russell 2000, I've got my alerts already in, so I'm only looking at two areas. Double bottom if we come back down into 1963, 1970 area, or rejection if we get up to the 2030 area. That's it. Maybe you want to take a break and retest. We're putting in this little inverse head and shoulders pattern. We've got the left shoulder here, the head, the right shoulder, neckline is kind of where we come in. We've broken it and we've just retested the neckline, so potentially this is a long play right now. We're above the 50 moving average. Well, we should close out. If we close above it in this hour candle, then it means the bulls are back in control, and we've put in a higher low, another higher low there, higher high, higher high. So it looks like a change of trend, and obviously we can see we've clearly broken this trend down as well. So that's the only play really, break and retest of pre-market high, I think, and with these two levels. Next YM, which is the Dow Jones. Okay, so the only place I can see is a bounce down here. Let's put a alert in, and that's around 37,880. Or if we can break this trend, we need to break it and have some clear daylight, not just poke through and come back down. Then we can look for a break and retest. For example, this here is not a break and retest because I need to see a bit of daylight. This has got daylight, this gap below here. Although it would have been a stop because that big red bar would have just taken you out. So really looking for a break, retest. The difference between potentially breaking out here and potentially breaking out here, we were just going sideways and we came down, double bottom, back up, and then went sideways again. Whereas here we're putting in a bit of a, you could say a lopsided head and shoulders pattern, putting in a series of low, high, low, high, low, high, low. But we weren't seeing that there, so that's a bit different. So I quite like the break and retest of pre-market high on this YM, and that's it really. Or a bounce double bottom down here at 37,880. Finally, Bitcoin is coming in again. I'm getting rid of that level because I don't like it. And the only level I like is a bounce. Maybe around this area. 4,400, 40,000 is what I really like. Probably need to get back down to this 200 moving average. So you can see a bit of pullback, but we've got this pivot here as well, and which is an area of confidence. So let's just put in a level. So 48,755, basically 50,000, kind of similar to where we had it. Watch 50,000 for a bounce. Psychological number as well. And that's it really. Let's see what ES has done in the last few minutes. Okay, it's right up into this rejection area or break and retest area. High risk rejection because we're so close to it right now. I quite like a bounce if we can come back down into the 50,000, 50, 80 area. Or we can watch for a break and retest of this area, kind of right on the level I put in. Probably best to break yesterday's high, watch it break, come back, retest, and then put in the long move before we look for our rejections at 51.50. Okay, that's it. Next up is the live stream of order flow, which looks a bit like this. No, not that one. That screen we just showed. So I will set that up and we'll be back tomorrow again at 9 AM Eastern time for the live levels. Okay, thank you for watching.